Hi, my name is Louis, and you're here at Optimal Wellness. We're going places with Ricc Rollins. Come with us. We're at the Optimal Wellness at the West Shore Mall.
Thanks a lot, Louis, and be sure to check out Optimum Wellness at West Shore in the soon coming day. I'm Ricc Rollins, and this is Going Places. I hope your morning's amazing. Here's what's coming up on today's show. Our pet vet, Dr. Nabuki's back, and we're talking about hairballs and your furry friends. And we'll talk with friend to the show, Troy Clinton, fashion stylist to the stars. You're going to love what he has to say. All of this and more, starting right now. Welcome back to this edition of Going Places. You know who this is. It's Dr. Nabuki.
Hey guys.
And we are talking about the dreaded hairballs today because it is National Hairball Awareness Day. And while we didn't have one of our regular felines, we have a stuffed cat in today, one of our stuffed ones. So we just call him Stuffy.
Who has a long coat.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And he's a perfect example of what kind of cats get hairballs. But you and I were talking, and you said that occasionally a dog will get a hairball too?
Yeah, so surprisingly, majority-wise, mainly cats. But sometimes dogs can too. And for both species, for dogs and cats, it's usually with the long-haired coats, because that's where they're going to be cleaning themselves, grooming themselves, and getting that clump of hair. Also, I mean, whether it's a cat or a dog too, sometimes if they have things stuck in their fur, they will chew it out and swallow that, and sometimes throw that back up.
Okay, that does kind of make sense. I mean, it's amazing how when we talk, there are things that I hadn't thought of that make real sense when we talk. So that's why we have Dr. Nabuki. Okay, so let's talk about how we prevent the hairballs.
So, definitely good question. First off, we have to know what a hairball is.
Okay, so what is a hairball?
So a hairball is basically loose, or we say dead hair, but loose hair that needs to come out. Or again, if it's matted on the body, the pet's going to remove it because it's irritating. So that's usually what consists of the majority of the hairballs. And for cats, the reason you see it a lot more in them is because not only do they groom themselves regularly, but their tongue actually has a really rough palate on there. I mean, if you've ever felt it, it's almost like sandpaper.
Oh, it is like sandpaper.
Yeah, and cats love licking you, and you're like almost like, okay, ow, okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You've exfoliated me for the day.
But the hairballs, it's that loose hair, and it accumulates usually in the stomach, and then once it reaches a certain amount, they're going to throw it back up.
Okay.
Some of it will pass through their body, but for a majority, especially with the long-haired dogs or cats, they're going to throw that back up.
Okay.
And so, that's the first thing. That's what the hairball is.
Okay, so how do we get rid of the hairball?
So how do we get rid of it? That is a very important question. So usually there's a couple of things. You want your pet to be active, okay? The more you move, the more the GI tract is mobile and moving, okay? If it's moving, good. That means things can come up or they can go the other way. If they're sitting there just sort of resting all the time, sometimes that'll sit in the stomach, and it may, again, either not move at all. If it gets too big, it could get stuck, which is a very bad thing, and you don't want that to happen.
How common is that?
I would say not too common.
Okay.
Because cats are very good about just throwing that thing back up.
Okay.
But again, if you're dealing with it once a month, that's okay. But if you're dealing with it, maybe once a week, now we're talking, okay, that's a little more frequent than we'd like to see.
Issues.
Yeah, we potentially got some issues. And so what you can do to help with that is exercise, mobility, but also making sure they stay hydrated. Just like us, stay hydrated, keep drinking your water, stay hydrated.
Yeah.
But if they stay hydrated, that allows for more mucus production so that they can throw that back up. And the other thing is there are certain diets that are formulated to help with hairballs, especially for cats. And also there's additives that you can give, supplements that you can give, such as fiber, like canned organic pumpkin, which we have in our stores here at Royal Pets. If you give some of that.
Organic pumpkin.
Canned organic pumpkin.
Not
like the pie filler.
Okay.
I think there's like a puree or a different.
There is.
Yeah.
There is. So no to that.
Yeah, no to that.
Okay.
But yes to the extra fiber of the canned organic pumpkin.
Okay.
And when you add that fiber, it helps to pull it through.
Okay.
So it's clumping it to either throw up or just to pull it through the body. And then we actually have something called laxatone, which is sort of like petroleum jelly or like mineral oil that the cats, you give it to them, and it lubricates.
Okay.
Lubricates the throat, the intestines, and helps it move on through.
Okay.
So I have had some cats come in, and they're throwing up, maybe every day, every other day, whatnot, and they're so sensitive to their own hair. We give them that, it coats it, and then boom, they feel a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is hope for you. Yes.
There is hope.
Okay, and so when we do that, the prevention of the hairball, I guess that's brushing.
Brushing is another one. That's a good point.
Okay.
The more you help them, if you brush them, you're getting rid of the loose hair.
Okay.
So grooming them and brushing them always helps.
Now, I know cats don't really like water like that, but do you bathe cats?
You actually can. You can
Okay.
absolutely bathe
Now,
them.
are you in for a cat fight? See what I did there? See what I did there?
I know. So just like for cats and dogs, some are gonna like it, some are not gonna like it. Always be safe. You know, the worst thing you can get are cat wounds.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
so take it step by step. Make sure they're comfortable with it. Make sure the water's warm. But yeah, go ahead and bathe them and
Okay.
you know, dry them
So
off.
shampooing them and helping, so grooming them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
To help them along even with their grooming process.
Yeah.
Really does help.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Whether it's at home or coming into Royal
I was
Pets.
gonna say is
Yeah.
give your kitty a spa day.
Yeah.
In honor of Hairball Awareness Day.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But all that helps. The better
Okay.
they're taken care of, just like a human. You know, if you're all grungy and your hair's all matted and whatnot, and you're not taking care of yourself, you know, really getting a bath, getting it groomed is going to make you feel better and look better. And same way
And
for
you're gonna
kitties.
look perfect. There, I got
Perfect.
it. There you
Perfect.
Go, there you go. Okay, Dr. Nabuki, one final tip.
Be vigilant with your kitty cat. Again, if you notice that they're doing it, you know, once a week or more often than that, that is where we get concerned, because it could not only be a hairball, but it could also be something else, such as allergies or inflammatory bowel disease, things like that. And so, you know, talk with your vet if it's more than once a week, and we can help you find some solutions for your kitty cat or dog, and figure out what's going on.
All right, here's the QR code for more information about Royal Pets. And as always, Dr. Nabuki, thank you.
See you guys.
More Going Places right after this.
Hi, I'm Arlene. Welcome to Coffee Speaks and Tea Talks. What's your coffee saying? Whether in for business or just getting away, let Coffee Speaks and Tea Talks be a part of your day. A place for you to come and share thoughts and spirit through a cup of coffee. Come and enjoy with us here at Coffee Speaks and Tea Talks. Coffee Speaks and Tea Talks. Enjoy life one cup at a time.
Hi, I'm Marissa,
And I'm Ryan.
and we're going places with Ricc Rollins.
Welcome back to this edition of Going Places. When celebrities like Monique, Sherelle, and the list of others need that certain look for their magazine cover, album cover, or an appearance that they're about to make, there's one guy they call, Troy Clinton. I got a chance to talk with Troy recently, and here's a part of that conversation. Those of you that don't know Troy Clinton's name, shame on you. Troy is a stylist extraordinaire. He's done some of everybody. And today we're going to talk about his style acumen, his aesthetic, if you will. We're going to talk about what's hot for the upcoming season for both men and women and everything in between. Welcome, Troy. How are you?
I'm well, Rick. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. My first question out the box is, when you gonna age? Troy has looked the same.
Brother, listen, I get it from my mama.
Okay, well, we thank God for Mom and her good genes.
Those good genes, I tell
So,
you.
so speaking of mom, let's start with little Troy. when we were talking beforehand, I said that's where I always like to start. When you were younger, did you think that this is where you would be in life?
You know what? No, not really, but it doesn't surprise me that I'm on this journey and that I'm where I am right now, because fashion has always been something that was part of my upbringing. Born in New York, raised on the streets of Manhattan and Queens, always seeing fashion, always being that kid that was definitely taking part in whatever was hip and hot during that time. So whether it was the Lee jeans, the Latigra shirts, anything from the 80s to the 90s, I was always influenced by fashion. I had a mother who loved fashion, so she always stayed looking amazing, always kept me and my sister looking amazing. So just coming from New York City, you know, where I feel like fashion has strongly been influenced, um, it's no wonder to me that I am doing this today.
That it's funny because I was thinking that song in the back of my mind. I get it from my mama came to mind because and because my mother was the same way. My mother was a seamstress and a tailor, and I can remember watching her get excited about a piece of fabric and knowing what it would be while it was still on the bolts at the fabric store. And so here we are in this industry later in life doing things that, and my daddy would hate the fact I would go watch in amazement at the sewing machine. He was like, nope, you can't touch the sewing machine. I wish he'd let me touch the sewing machine now, but it is amazing. So when did you realize that fashion, okay, we understand the part about growing up in it, but when did you realize this is something I could do? Because you didn't just jump into fashion. There was a lot in between. Now, full disclosure, Troy and I've known each other for, we won't talk about how many years, but we have known each other for quite some time. And while he was always fashionable, when I heard he was a stylist, it didn't surprise me. But at the same time, he had done such great work and such meaningful work that it was like, when do you pivot and say, this is life? This is what I'm going to do now.
Well, I mean, you know, coming from nonprofit and doing community work for
Mm-hmm.
many years, definitely was uh, life rewarding work.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely helped me find a center place in my life when I was
Right.
just trying to find my way. So I feel like, you know, God places us. I'm a very spiritual person. I believe
Come on,
everything that
sir.
has happened in my life has happened by the grace of God, and it has been God's will, and I've just been acting accordingly. Um, so, you know, going, I would say, in my early 30s, trying to figure it out, just leaving New York. Um, God just placed me in a position where community work was exposed to me. I loved it. I found that it gave me meaning and purpose, and that gave me about a 15-year career in community work.
Mm-hmm.
After doing it for so long and enjoying it immensely, I felt like it was still yet time for me to do something else, and that I was a man of many facets, and that there were many other things that God still was calling me to do.
Mm.
Um, and so I found myself at a place in life where I was just ready for a change, ready to do things differently. And I didn't really know what it was, but I prayed on it and I asked God to reveal what it was that He wanted me to do on my next journey. And I had a good friend who was a wardrobe manager for R&B singer Sherelle. I'm sure you know Saturday Love with
Yes.
Alexander O'Neal.
It
Yes,
started playing in my head. Yes.
yes. He was a road manager, and he was like, "Yo, I'm going to Vegas. How would you like to come along?" Had never been to Vegas. Um, was a huge fan of hers. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I went on the trip, had a great weekend with her. And I remember she had to do a sound check and she needed a pair of shoes for the show. and she really didn't have time to run to the mall. And I was like, yo, I'll go. I'm not doing anything. She was like, you sure? I was like, yeah, you know. So I get to the mall and I'm looking and I'm like, man, I didn't know like which shoes because I saw several pairs that I liked. So I just got them all. I said, we'll figure it out later. And she loved it. She rocked the show. I enjoyed the atmosphere, the energy backstage, and I felt like, yo, I could be in these spaces. Like I enjoy this. It's a newfound energy for me, um, and I was really excited about just that whole experience. So when I went back home and was doing my work in the nonprofit, I told my friend, "Yo, I really enjoyed that. Do you think your girl would be down with me coming along to another show and possibly even styling her?" Because I had known about styling coming from New York in the 90s. I had many friends who had ventured into this new thing that was called being a fashion stylist.
Stylist, yep.
Yes. And they were all doing their things. Like some of them were working with Bad Boy. A good friend of mine was working with Aaliyah, and we were all young in our
Mm,
20s. And I had already relocated into the South and was kind of like in corporate America. But I had these friends who was just doing great things. And they used to always tell me, yo, you should have been doing this, man. You know, you were that kid back in the day, man. You still rocking. And I was like, yeah, but I just, for me, it just felt like something that was innate, something that was a part of me. Fashion was just something that I liked, but I never saw it as a career. So I
mhm.
kind of just always took it as a compliment and never really thought of it being anything that I wanted to pursue until fast forward, 15, 20 years later. And that whole experience made me recognize how much I love fashion and how I could possibly make money from it. And even if there really wasn't money to be made, I knew it was something that I enjoyed doing. And even if I was doing it in my pastime, but God just said, nope, it's not going to be your pastime. It's going to be um, a road and a journey that's going to require you to
Right.
have to step out on faith and leave this work that you've known for so many years and step into this new journey. And I think it all just happened at the time when I was really craving for something new.
Well, that's where I want to pick up because we're going to have to take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk about what happens when you say yes to God because he's got a new plan and it's time to pivot. When we come back with more Going Places with Troy right after this. Welcome back to this edition of Going Places. If you're just joining us, Troy Clinton, stylist to the stars, and I mean that literally, is with us today. And when we left, Troy was telling us about how the moment comes when he hears clearly that what he'd known is not going to be what he knows, and how all of this newness came into life, and he was now able to walk into a place that the doors opened for him. So let's talk about that, Troy. So you'd already worked with Sherelle. She loved what you did, and people were telling you this is something that you should be doing. You take it from there.
And so she became like my first client. I ended up working with her for about 2 years. Well, the first 2 years, maybe about 3 years. I'll take that
Mhm.
back, about 3 years. And in 2011, she had a BET appearance with Alexander O'Neal. They were doing a snippet of their famous song Saturday Love.
Mhm.
And I had the opportunity to style her for that. So now in 2011, I'm having my first platform for a televised show that would
Mm-hmm.
feature my work. And so along the way, just many doors just started opening up with publications, with other celebrities, and now it's been about 12 years that I've been doing this thing.
I want to go back. Something you just said, that the doors started opening. So when those doors open, you have to be ready to walk through them. So did you know in that moment, hey, I got this? Or was there some trepidation? Did you say, am I really ready for this? Or because you'd worked with Sherelle now, you knew I got this, I've got the connects, I've always had the eye. Is it time to walk through this door and walk in with a count? Because we can walk through the door and still be looking around like, we've never done this before. We walk through with a confidence. Which way did you go into the door?
Well, I had reached out to a few people who I knew in the industry as to
Mm-hmm.
like how could I really get started? Because though I loved fashion, I knew I wanted to make this a business. I knew that I didn't want it to just be something that I was doing on the side. And if I
Mm-hmm.
was going to make it a business, I had to make sure that I had all the components. So I reached out to some friends of mine. Um, a few were responsive, a few I would say, I guess, were too busy. But I just was always a strong believer that what God has for me is for me. So whether
That's
it's
it.
through other people helping me walk through those doors, or me just navigating my way, what's
Mm-hmm.
for me is for me.
Right.
And so with the information that I had gathered from different friends who had been wardrobe stylists now for like 20 plus years, I took those tools and I just ran. But when I tell you, I knew it was for me because opportunities was just opening up so early in my career, with
Mm-hmm.
publications, doing magazine covers, and meeting people like Monique, the comedian and
Mm-hmm.
actress who I had adored and admired since my early years. Various people working with Leon, the famous actor Leon, who I had also admired from a young age, working with a lot of the hottest reality stars from Kenya Moore, Portia Williams, now my girl Melody Holt from Love and Marriage Hip
Love
Hop.
Melody. Love her,
Love and
love her, love her.
Marriage Hospital. Yeah,
So
she's
what is that
amazing.
like, Troy, when people that you admire, and you had admired rather, you now are standing there and you are determining their look, and you're standing literally nose to nose with that person, dressing and draping them. What goes through your mind in that moment?
Really, honestly, God's goodness. Just how
That's the
blessed
answer I
I
wanted,
am.
sir.
Yes, just how blessed I am, and I recognize it every day that on my journey, on this journey called life, the things that I have desired, the things that I have manifested in my life, God has always showed up and showed out. And that's why my faith is
Love it.
strong. And even when I go through life adversities, whether it's in my personal or my professional, I just stand on the word of God, knowing that He got me, and if He brought me to it, He'll bring me through it.
Mhm.
And I'm just always in awe. I mean, if it ended tomorrow, I have had so many amazing
Yes,
experiences
sir.
that I recognize things happen in chapters of my life. So if this is just one chapter, then it has been amazing. It has been an amazing experience. But I'm believing it's going to be a few chapters. But I do believe that there are other things that God is still calling me to do.
I believe that as well. And we're going to talk about those chapters when we come back right after this. Welcome back to this edition of Going Places. We are with my friend, Troy Clinton, and Troy is stylish to the stars, from Monique to Leon to the reality stars that we love, including our diva Melody Holt from Huntsville. He's done it, been there, done it again. But there was one thing that Troy decided to do, and I think a lot of us went, whoa, and it was amazing, was that he decided that while his career was great, there was something missing from his life. And he decided to be a dad. And he has two adorable daughters. Let's talk about that, Troy.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I love my babies. I think it's one of those things, again, with always manifesting. From a young boy, I knew I always wanted to be a father. I knew it in the core of me. And with all of life and finding my way, one thing that I always never let go of was becoming a dad one day. All through my journey,
Greatest thing I ever did.
My 30s, and into my 40s, because I didn't become a dad until 44. And
Really? Okay.
yes, but never let go of the thought and the dreams of wanting to be a dad. And so not only did God bless me with a beautiful daughter, but he blessed me with two. I always just wanted one, but he blessed me with two. And I think it was because of my obedience and my patience, because it was one of those experiences that I'm all about the numbers. So for me, it was going to happen by 35. And so when it didn't, I was like, okay, God's timing is perfect timing. He knows the desires of my heart. I wouldn't have chosen for it to happen at 44, but I'm glad that it happened. So at whatever age, I embrace it. I feel like God prepared me. So much of life has happened for me that I feel I'm able to be a better dad because I've had so many experiences, as opposed to I had been a dad in my 20s.
Yeah, that's it. So how old are the girls now?
They're 8.
See, you notice he said they're 8 because they're twins. Yes. Yes, my goodness. We're almost out of time. Remember, Troy joins us again next week with his predictions for summer for both men and women. You don't want to miss that. And on behalf of everyone here at Going Places, as always, we want you to be blessed on the journey. Until next time, more interesting people doing interesting things in interesting places. That's what we'll talk about on Going Places. Until then, you take care.